As I'm sure many of you are aware, I am a season ticket holder at Preston North End, and that means this season I have got to experience all the Championship away fans coming to Deepdale. In today's video, we're going to be ranking them all into a tier list. Now this video is just for a little bit of fun, don't take it too seriously if I do have your club a little bit lower than you'd like them to be. It's only based on my personal opinion from the travelling fans that came to Deepdale this season. Would like to know from you in the comments down below, at your personal stadium, who have been the best and worst travelling fans to visit your ground this season. 400 likes on today's video would be massively appreciated, but let's just jump in. Straight off the bat, I will preface this one by saying there was 2 home matches this season that I didn't manage to attend, so won't be able to give a fair verdict on those travelling fans. The 2 games that I did miss this season were against Plymouth and Birmingham, the only 2 home games I missed this season at Deepdale. Did hear very good things about Plymouth fans, to be fair, and had I gone to that game, no doubt they would have been right up here in one of the top tiers. Brought a massive following down to Deepdale that afternoon. But as I wasn't present in the stadium for either of those matches, it would feel harsh to give them a definitive ranking. But other than that, let's kick off this ranking. So the first home game of the season was against Sunderland. It was a packed out away end from the Black Cats. They brought over 5,600 travelling fans to Deepdale. If you watched the video we did last year when I was ranking Championship away fans, you'll have seen how highly I spoke of Sunderland then. By far and away the best away fans that came to Deepdale last season. They hammered us on the final day of the season to get into the top 6. This time around, I don't think they were quite as good as they were last season, and obviously the context around both games is probably why that was the case. We ended up beating Sunderland 2-1 this season, but regardless of that, they did make a decent amount of noise, I thought, albeit they didn't win this one and weren't quite as good as I thought they were last season, but still some of the best travelling fans to visit Deepdale this season. Definitely at least an A tier. A nice way for Preston to kick off the season at home as well. We ended up beating them 2-1, but a really good away following from Sunderland nonetheless. After that, we had Swansea coming to Deepdale. They brought just over 700 fans to Deepdale. North End ended up winning this one. Swansea did take the lead in the first half, but Preston ended up turning it around in the second half. It is an absolute trek from Swansea to Preston. Speaking from a Preston fan's perspective, we never tend to take that many fans to Swansea either. Based on the other teams in this ranking, I'd probably have them in C. I thought they were a solid set of away fans. 700-ish is a decent also following given the distance, but not quite on the level of some of the teams that I will have above them, but solid nonetheless. After that, we had the West Brom fans coming to Deepdale, and they absolutely battered us on this occasion. Put 4 goals past us. They brought just over 2,000 fans to Deepdale in the end. Have seen West Brom bringing much bigger numbers in previous years gone by, but always a good set of fans I find away at Deepdale. Based on this season, probably have them in the B tier. Did make a good amount of noise, just maybe not quite as many numbers, maybe to push them into the A tier, but I'm sure that was a cracking away day for any West Brom fan that came to Deepdale. They absolutely tore us to shreds that afternoon. Millwall fans coming to Deepdale, they brought just shy of 700 fans this time around. We'd probably have them in the C tier, similar to Swansea. Made an alright amount of noise for the travelling fans that did come to Deepdale. I want to say this was the first game Millwall had after they got rid of Gary Rower, and I think this one was on Sky as well, so credit to all the Millwall fans that did make the journey to North End. I'd probably have them around the C tier. After that, we had the Southampton fans, and do you know what? Pleasantly surprised by how good they actually were. I go as far to say I think they might be A tier. Considering this one was a midweek match, how far that journey is from Southampton to Preston, brought over 1,500 fans, made a really good amount of noise as well, and helps that they scored a last-minute equaliser in this game. The limbs were absolutely mental in the away end. First proper time that I can really remember Southampton coming to Deepdale. The last time we'll have played them in the league, I'd have been quite young really, so especially considering this one was a midweek game, the goals Southampton scored, the noise they made, the travelling numbers as well, I'd say A tier for them. Really quite pleasantly surprised by how good they were as an away set of fans at Deepdale this season. Coventry fans, I also think I would have in the A tier. Really entertaining game of football between North End and Coventry at Deepdale. It was a back and forth sort of game. Preston ended up winning it 3-2, but Cov fans made some really good noise in that away end, I thought. Always quite loud and lively. You can have a bit of banter with them. brought just shy of 3,000 fans as well, which was one of the bigger away followings coming to Deepdale this season. All of that combined, I think they're worthy of an A tier for me personally. Oh, the less said about this Cardiff game, the better. Cardiff ended up scoring 2 goals past the 95th minute to end up winning this game. It was absolutely mental. In terms of the travelling numbers that came to Deepdale, wasn't the most. They brought just over 780 fans, so was on the smaller side of attendances to come to North End, and noise throughout the entire match. It wasn't booming or anything like that, but past the 90th minute they made a lot of noise. I'd probably put Cardiff top of C tier. Just maybe needed to bring a few more to get into those higher tiers, but yeah, it was a mental end to that game, wasn't it? After that, we had the QPR fans at Deepdale. It was a smaller attendance they brought as well, just over 540 fans. I think the second lowest away attendance to visit Deepdale this season. In fairness to QPR, this game was on a Friday night, so that needs to be taken into consideration. We'll probably have them C tier as well. The fans that did come made a decent amount of noise when they scored, especially. QPR ended up beating us 2-0 on this one. It was a honking atmosphere from the home end, I remember that quite rightly, but yeah, QPR away fans I would have C tier. Watford brought just shy of 900 fans, but I'd have them in the B tier, I think. They absolutely wiped the floor with us this afternoon. Ended up beating us 5-1, and it did look like quite a fun away end to be in, especially when all the goals were being pinged in. After that, we had Leeds visiting Deepdale on Boxing Day. Now, it was a sellout away allocation from Leeds, brought over 5,600 fans. I think as a result of this game being on Boxing Day, the fact it was the early kickoff as well, it's definitely not the best version of Leeds fans that I've seen at Deepdale in years gone by. Without fail, Leeds would always be sort of S tier in terms of the noise they make, the numbers they bring and things like that. This season though, I didn't think they were quite up to that same standard. I'd probably have them in the A tier still. When they scored, they made a hell of a lot of noise, and when that whole away end was in unison and singing, they can be really noisy, but there were just quite a few lulls throughout that match from the away end. Leeds themselves weren't really up for that game at Deepdale, I didn't think. We ended up beating them. And that was almost sort of reflected in the atmosphere at times. Any Leeds fans that were in that away end at Deepdale, I'm sure would back that up, that that's not the best they've been away this season either. With that being said, it was still a sellout allocation away at Preston on Boxing Day, and you can't really knock that, can you? After playing Leeds, we then had Sheffield Wednesday on the Friday night, and they are going straight into the S tier. For me personally, by far and away the best set of away fans to visit Deepdale this season. Considering the state of affairs Wednesday were in when they came to Deepdale, unbelievable away support, I have to admit. In terms of the consistent noise they made throughout that entire match, there weren't really any lulls in the atmosphere, like there was sometimes with maybe Sunderland and Leeds, who both sold out that away end as well. Sheffield Wednesday for me were just on a different tier. Ended up beating us at Deepdale, deservedly so. Great limbs in the away end when they put the ball into the back of the net. They usually do travel quite well and bring really good numbers to Deepdale, but I'd go as far to say that's probably the best set of Sheffield Wednesday fans I've ever seen come to Deepdale. Really impressed with them this season. Bristol City would probably have somewhere in the C tier, maybe above these two. They brought just over 660 fans to Deepdale. Preston ended up winning it 2-0. It was a bit of a routine win for North End in the end. Not awful numbers considering the travelling distance between North End and Bristol, but not quite on the level of some of these fans, I'd say. Ipswich next up, I think I'd have them. Their travelling fans in the A tier. They brought over 3,400 away fans to Deepdale. A bonkers game of football in the end, which Preston just about managed to sneak, winning it 3-2. But in that second half especially, it almost felt like the away end was just sort of sucking the ball into the back of the net. As soon as Ipswich got one back and then two back, that away atmosphere really started to ramp up. But yeah, really impressed with Ipswich fans this season. I'd go as far to say that's probably the best I've ever seen Ipswich fans at Deepdale in terms of numbers and noise they made. If they'd have got back into that and equalised, they might have even been S tier with, I'm sure, the limbs that would have kicked off them. But no, generally speaking, really impressed with Ipswich this season. I put them in A tier. Middlesbrough fans, I think, are always good when they come to Deepdale. I'd probably have them maybe top of B tier. They brought just over 1,700 fans to Deepdale this season, if I can squeeze them in there. It was a midweek game, which needs to be taken into consideration. North End did end up winning this one 2-1, but good away noise from the away end, as I always think it is. Had that game took place on a Saturday and Borough had taken a couple thousand more that they might have done had that game been on a weekend, they definitely would have been in A tier, I think. Always a good set of away fans to come to Deepdale, though, in my opinion. Where do I go with Blackburn next up? They brought just over 4,700 fans, obviously, is right next door at Preston and Blackburn. Really lively atmosphere, especially in the first sort of half an hour of that game when Rovers went 2-0 up. But as soon as Preston got back into that game, that away end went considerably quieter. Ended as a 2-2 draw in the end. I'd probably have Rovers somewhere in the B tier based on their away fans at Deepdale this season. Second half didn't make that much noise, but decent-ish numbers, and first half I thought they were quite good. B tier I think is probably fair. Hull fans I think I'd probably have somewhere in the B tier as well. Shame this one ended level, so we didn't really get to see any limbs from the away or home end in this one. It was quite a tense match with obviously both teams going for the playoffs. North End had some really good chances to win that one. We just couldn't quite get anything over the line. But an away following of over 2,400 certainly isn't to be sniffed at. Good set of away fans, I thought. Stoke fans, I think I'd have in the A tier. They brought over 3k to Deepdale this season. Ended up beating us as well. Stephen Schumacher getting one over on Ryan Lowe. Loads of noise being made in that away end. I think that when Stoke are in the mood and they get a result against you, from my experience of those fans coming to Deepdale, they always tend to be quite loud. I remember it quite well. I want to say it was their first season back in the Championship when Peter Crouch scored one against us. Remember them being really loud on that occasion as well. But yeah, this season, thought they were good, deserved the win in the end. I put their fans into the A tier. Apologies to Rotherham fans, but if I'm going to put anyone into the D tier, it's probably going to have to be you. It was the smallest away following to come to Deepdale this season, just over 400 fans in the end, but credit to every Rotherham fan that did make that trip to Deepdale. We ended up beating them 3-0, and yeah, the Millers didn't really have anything about them on that afternoon. Away fans didn't really make that much noise, but I wouldn't expect them to, given the situation they find themselves in. Hopefully they regroup a little bit in League One for next season. Huddersfield fans, I'd probably have somewhere in the B tier. They did bring over 1.2k for a midweek game. Good numbers in the first half, but as soon as that second half started to get away from them, we ended up beating them 4-1. Things did go considerably quieter in that away end, as you'd probably expect. And yeah, there was a bit of arguing between some of their players at full time and some of the fans in that away end. But yeah, credit to all the Huddersfield fans that did make that trip to Deepdale. First half I thought was really good from those set of away fans. Second half, things did take a bit of a lull in the away end, I thought. For Norwich then, I'd probably have them somewhere in the B tier, maybe around about there. Brought just over 1,400 away fans to Deepdale. Were treated to a brilliant goal by Gabriel Sara, which ended up winning that one for Norwich. But yeah, credit to all the fans that did make that trip to Deepdale. Massive journey from Norwich to Preston. Good away support and a decent amount of noise, I thought, in that away end. And then the last side we had visiting Deepdale this season was the Leicester City fans, and I'm going to have to put them in the S tier. Actually, maybe go as far to say they were the best fans to come to Deepdale this season. Certainly them and Sheffield Wednesday, I think, were clear of everyone else. But it was a party atmosphere in the away end. As you'd expect, Leicester did wrap up the league title at Deepdale. Bit of an easy game for them, if I'm being completely honest. Had a feeling it may have been a very one-sided game going into that match, given Preston had nothing to play for. But in terms of the away end itself, Leicester fans were in brilliant voice throughout the whole match. No lulls in the atmosphere whatsoever. Constant singing. I've still got some of the chants stuck in my head right now. Huge limbs when they went ahead and scored. Great flares in the away end, I thought, as well, which really added to the atmosphere. But yeah, packed out away end on Monday night to go ahead and win the championship. You'd expect Leicester fans to deliver, and they did just that. But that right there, I think is my ranking for Championship away fans that came to Deepdale this season. Like I said at the start of the video, don't take this one to heart if I've put your team a little bit lower than you'd like them to be. It's all just for a little bit of fun. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below as well. Other than that though guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to leave a like if you did go on to enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next one.